Okay, so I am, this is the week one questions and answer call. Had a little bit of technical difficulty, so decided to just do a live video today. How you doing, Jonathan Johnson? How you doing, Leo? And how are you, Michelle? Welcome to the call. All right. All right, now I'm going to wait just a few minutes here for a few more people to hop on. Welcome, Jacob. Just a few more minutes here. Now, hey, Ben. Oh, hi, Michelle. How you doing? Hey, Ben. Good to see you on here. How you doing, Bakari? Good to see you. I hope the course is going well for you so far. My eyes are getting tired, so give me just a moment here. Oh, yeah, I got the good bad boys on now. Good evening, McCarty. Okay, so the main purpose of this first call is to go over what we're going to do in the future. Is I'm going to put this on a different platform like probably Zoom, and that way we'll enable other people to sort of talk and chat, and then as the number of students gets larger, we'll start doing that. And occasionally, I'm probably going to have like some guests to come on and talk about different aspects of how to, help get this business done. What I'm going to do to start is I'm going to answer a few questions that have come up in, some of the private messages I've been getting. And then, if you guys have any questions that you've had come up in your own head, in terms of considering the course, considering having the call center in general, and then also for students of the course that have questions, I'd be happy to answer those questions. So that's the main, very informal agenda for this call. So the first question I've been asked a few times is what are the startup costs? So I sort of went over that in a video before, but I want to be more specific. So generally, the startup cost, and this is like right at launch, generally the startup cost is the phone system. That's something that cannot be avoided no matter what your configuration is, whether you're answering the phones yourself to start, whether you have agents at whatever hourly rate. The thing that you have to pay for before launch is the phone system. So the phone system, there's 3 different recommended ones. Hey, Jacob, glad you're here. There's 3 recommended systems. One is Talkdesk, and that one, it's around, so the pricing is different based off of different vendors. Now, there's a per agent cost, which is based off of seats. And, if you know anything about software licenses, hey, Denise, welcome. If you know anything about software licenses, oftentimes they'll do like a license. So you'll pay, in this case, a monthly license fee. Now, with some software vendors, the seat or the license is all-inclusive. It's a monthly price per agent, and that includes all the minutes that you use incoming and outgoing, inbound, outbound. And then others, they charge for the minutes. So Talkdesk, which is sort of lower price recommended vendor, is around $100 per agent all in. And I believe they charge 2 cents per minute. So over the course of, let's say, 20 clients, which be around 15 to 20 clients per agent as you're growing. Generally, the regular clients using around about 200 minutes a month. So 200 minutes at 2 cents a minute is, if I can do math right now, I think it's $4. Yeah, yes, I think it's $4. Yeah, $4. So if you have 20 clients that average about $4, then you're looking at about $80 in total minute cost. So if you do, like 5,000 minutes in a month as a company, now you're looking at, like $250 worth of minute cost. So up front, for Talkdesk, you have your 2 agent seats, which is around $100 each. And so you're looking at, I think, about $250. Now, if you use the main recommended one that's called 5.9. 5.9, if you have 2 agents, there's a startup fee. I can't remember the exact price right now. I'm gonna have to come back to you guys on that. I'll type it in later. But I believe it's about $250. It's $250 or $500, and that's for the entire account, not per agent. Assuming it's $500 just to be safe, you have around a $200 agent price, and then you have the $500 one-time sort of setup fee price. So you'd be looking at $800 or $900, by the time you launch for the phone system. Now, outside of the phone system, you have your staff. So generally, your staff is going to be your agents. Now, what I recommend is that you start with 2. So if you have 2, what we did was we started off 2, and we got them to agree to be paid their first month payroll or check at the end of 30 days. So, rather than doing the 2-week thing, which we did later, it allowed us to sort of, push back the pay just a little bit and give us a little bit of time to catch up in terms of revenue and stuff. So, and thankfully we did that because we ended up doing about $2,000 in revenue our first month, which offset one of the agents completely. And so we ended up paying the other agent, of course, out of our own pocket. So that cost. The third is any marketing costs you incur. So we didn't have any marketing costs in the first month because we did our pre-launch, which was mostly content marketing stuff, and there's a lot of info on different sort of pre-launch approaches. Okay, and then so whatever your marketing costs are, I recommend you don't spend more than say $1,000 if you're doing paid marketing for the pre-launch, because when you launch, you're still gonna have to sort of figure out if everything's like working properly and set up the way you really want it. And so you don't want to have more than like maybe 10 or 15 clients the day you launch. It also takes time to onboard each one of the clients, and you want it to go smoothly. So what that means is that if you spend $10,000 on marketing pre-launch, you're probably going to end up with way too many clients the day you launch, and it'll be crazy. So upfront costs are marketing costs, your agent pay, which is really in the middle toward the end of the first month, and then your phone cost. Outside of that, look at about $150 in fees from setting up your email account. If you use like a MailChimp for email marketing solution, those types of things. So that, I hope, is a decent answer in terms of the startup cost. I did a very specific video on it, but I wanted to give a little bit of variety to the ranges for this answer. Okay, so another question that has come up a lot is, if I don't know anything about call centers or the industry, is this something that I can be doing? Will the course get me there? And the answer is yes. When I started with my co-founder. I'm telling you, we didn't know anything about call centers whatsoever. We reverse engineered everything, literally from scratch. There were so many different like business acronyms and stuff that I didn't know at all. And to this day, there are some that I don't know and I don't pay attention to. And so, there's certain like companies like, let's say, Sprint or T-Mobile, they have, thousands of agents in different call centers across the world. And so they have different systems and strategies and processes for that type of size that we don't deal with. And also because we are not customer service call center, we're just really fancy answering services for small businesses. There's certain things that we don't handle. So what that means is that you don't have to know anything except, just a few basic things. You have to know how to use the computer well. You need to know how to use a USB headset. You need to know how to read, and you need to know how to sort of, understand what you're looking at when it comes to certain metrics. So if you see talk time, you need to know that corresponds. Like, they're very simple things that all of you absolutely know. If you know how to, sign yourself up for the course and get through that without any technical difficulty, then you certainly know how to go through all the content and use that to implement and launch a call center. Okay, what else? So in going in blind, we obviously made some mistakes, right? So the first mistake we made was not knowing, what was the ideal phone system we should be using. The first one we actually selected, I don't even remember the name of it anymore. We used it for 2 or 3 months when we first started. And it actually wasn't meant for answering services type category at all. It was meant for purely telemarketing companies that were doing basically all outbound calling. So we used that and we still figured out a way to make it work. We had to put together some other software pieces that didn't quite make sense in order to send emails out to our client. We had to take a system that should have been all in one, and we used 3 or 4 different systems to do that. So, but eventually we made it through that. There were things that I didn't know any acronyms or anything when we started, so we had to learn which metric made sense and which one didn't matter for our bottom line. We had to verify any pieces of information I could find out in terms of my, reverse engineering. So my guess was that our ratio would be 15 clients for every 1 agent, okay? That turned out to be roughly the case, thankfully, but I was hoping that it would be closer to 20 clients for every 1 agent. And so when we got to about 40 clients, we tried to make do with around 2 agents. Well, that wasn't sufficient, and we ended up having to sort of restructure all of that. When it came to what are the things we think our clients are going to care about on a day-to-day basis, some of the things were pretty simple and obvious, right? Like, we want to make sure that we're answering calls. One thing that we didn't realize was when we started, and for the first 4 months, if we ever missed 1 call ever, we were absolutely terrified about that thought. We thought we'd be shut down the second we missed the very first phone call that we missed, that it would automatically lead to a complaint and that we would, we would be out of business. Well, it turns out in the industry, a certain number of abandoned calls as a percentage are actually expected. And if you have too low of a percentage, then you have hired too many people and you're spending too much money on payroll. If your abandon rate is too high, then of course you don't have enough staff, your quality of service is low, and you need to hire more people. And so one of the reasons why there will absolutely be abandoned calls, no matter what, is because there's a lot of solicitors calling your clients, right? There's a lot of people that, might call a wrong number. It doesn't happen that often, but 1 to 2% of the time, people call wrong numbers, right? There are people that will call a company and maybe your client company is recycling a number that some other company used. And instead of calling the hair salon, they're calling some type of construction company now. Oh, I thought it was the hair salon. So those types of things come up, and it's gonna sort of factor in. So we didn't realize that type of stuff. And so as we learned the business, we compiled more information, and from those information, the number of mistakes that we made on a weekly, monthly basis slowly went down. We made less and less mistakes. We optimized our processes better, right? And eventually we got to the point where things would just move. We used to always have one or two bad apples on our team in terms of agents and receptionists. There was somebody that would just sour the mood of the whole crew. So we figured out how to, weed out the agents that we suspect are going to be not a great sort of cultural or personality fit for our organization. All right. So all of those things, we sort of jam-packed that into this course so that you won't have to make the same mistake that we did. Okay. Now, those are the two main big things. I'm sure there's going to be some other questions that are sort of prevalent. I noticed, Jacob posted a very intriguing question in the group earlier today that I was very happy to answer. I had no idea that Ruby Receptionist was dealing with a lawsuit, so that was very interesting. Do any of you guys have any questions that you haven't seen covered before, or that you might feel is, helpful for the entire group to get an answer to on this broadcast? I know there's a few of you watching, so if you've got any questions, please let me know. Now, nothing typed in at the moment, so I'm going to sort of talk a little bit more about, again, a very interesting question that was asked by Jacob, and it was concerning the lawsuit that was brought up against Ruby Receptionist. Now, when it comes to lawsuits in an industry like this that you may or may not know much about, it can be scary to think about, man, what if I put myself in a position to be in a lawsuit, right? So this is how you can avoid those things. In terms of how we price and charge and how we tally up the minutes that our clients are using, we have been very sort of legitimate about it. If someone let's say someone is on a 100-minute plan, and we take 105 minutes worth of calls, right? And that includes the handle time, which you can learn, you can Google what handle time is. But basically the very simple answer as to what its handle time is: the amount of time on the phone plus the amount of time the agent spent completing their notes and submitting the category of the call and that call summary email to our client. So the call and then the work after the call combined is handle time. So in our case, if someone's on a 100-minute plan and they use 105 minutes and 30 seconds, then we charge them for 105 minutes. And adding up to the 105 minutes, every single one of the calls, some are going to be 17 seconds, a minute and 22 seconds, what have you. All of that is accumulated as is. There's no rounding up at any point, and every call that comes in, that's the exact amount in terms of duration that they will eventually be billed for at the end of that cycle, right? Now, what Ruby Receptionist does, one of our competitors, and if you haven't seen that, check that out. It's a link that Jacob Flores posted leading to a lawsuit, $30 million lawsuit. What Ruby Receptionist does is they round up to the next 30-second increment. So they don't round up or down depending on what the closest, they always round up to the next 30-second increment. So if they take a call that was, 14 seconds, then the shortest of calls, right? Like pretty much a hang up, you as a customer of Ruby, are going to be charged 30 seconds. If they take a call that's 2 minutes and 31 seconds, well, that's a 3-minute call now. And so, if you take, say, 100 calls and, half of them are rounded up by more than 15 seconds out of 30 seconds, well, 100 times 15 seconds is, I think it's 15 minutes, whatever 1,500 seconds is. 1,500 seconds is, I don't know, 25 minutes. So, it's a lot of seconds. And so what ends up happening there is, at the end of the month, someone that would have had a bill over the course of 100 different calls that might have been freaking 15 minutes less or 20 minutes less, and then they're going to pay that much more money. So if someone has a bill that would have been 100 minutes and instead you're at 120 minutes, and then you pay like $2 per minute overage, well, that's $40 for the month. And then you times that times like 1,000 clients, well, that's $40,000 in different, just because they're rounding up by 30 seconds. So Ruby has 18,000 clients. I don't know if they have that right now, but over the course of the business, they've had at least 18,000 clients. I think right now, if I had to guess, they have probably 10,000 clients. So if 10,000 clients for like 2 years straight are getting charged an extra $20 or $40 a month because of the increment, that adds up to a lot of money. And so that's the whole nature of the lawsuit. It's about, are they disclosing properly enough whether they are, rounding up, and whether they are charging clients for whether you're on hold. In our case, and in the model that's taught in the course, you will not do either of those things. You wouldn't charge someone for being on hold, and you wouldn't charge the rounded up by increment pricing. And so that model wouldn't fall under the basis of, the terms of this particular lawsuit. So I thought it was interesting that Ruby was dealing with that. I'm a little surprised that it happened, but on the other hand, I'm also not that surprised. There's a lot of attorney clients. Now, we as a company have never been sued. There was one guy, I will say that there was one guy that mentioned that he might sue, but then again, we pointed out exactly how we charge people. We mentioned the handle time plus talk time, and there was no gray area. And because there's no gray area, he didn't have a leg to stand on. So that's that. Are there any other questions that anyone is wondering about? Denise, I know you've been going through the course. Jacob, Bakari, I know you guys have been going through the course. Did you have any questions at all? Oh, okay, here we go. For some reason, I didn't scroll down and I didn't see these before. So, Lauren, thanks. You said nice painting. Thank you for that. This painting was actually purchased in Thailand. It was a really cool painting. It's like 80 inches across and 40 inches high. It's really big. And it was like $300. Okay, so Bakari, the three preferred are 5.9 Talkdesk and Pure Cloud Genesis. Now, Pure Cloud Genesis is the most expensive one, and it's something that I wouldn't recommend up front. And part of the reason for that is because they have a minimum monthly spend of $2,000 a month. And it doesn't matter whether you have 1 agent or 10 agents, they just have a minimum spend of $2,000 a month. So it's not something that's necessary. And then plus, surprisingly enough, 5.9 sort of metrics are better in terms of the reporting. They have more flexibility in terms of reporting. Now, Pure Cloud Genesis, I believe, is going to have the strongest sort of underlying infrastructure that the system is sitting on top of, and sort of reliability and the uptime is very high, and very large companies use that. Now, something like Talkdesk, they're sitting on something called Twilio, which is sitting under Amazon Web Server, completely cloud-based and completely dependent on how well Amazon servers are doing. Now, you would think the Amazon Web Servers are incredibly reliable, but if you have used Talkdesk for very long, you'll find that it's really not that reliable. And so my recommendation is, if you're on a serious budget and you want to just get some clients, we did use Talkdesk for like 4 or 5 months, and I don't believe Talkdesk lost us any clients, but it was a good idea to get off of it as soon as we could. So Bakari, it is in the course, so you'll see that, and I know that you're a student, so if you go through that video, you'll find it. But it's 5.9 Talkdesk and Pure Cloud Genesis. Okay, so Denise had a question. Do you have contracts with each BA, or did you bring them on at W-2 from the beginning? So when we first started, and I'll just be completely honest with you, when we first started, we did like 1099. And then we switched, oh, hey, Brandy, hey, Jarius, hey, Cleveland, hey, Cleveland, and hey, Brian Crocker. When we started, we did 1099, then we switched to W-2. The reason why it's smart to be on W-2 is because in our case, and if you follow what we did, we have each agent come in for a specific time, like a shift, right? And so the shift would be whatever it is, say 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. And so when you require them to come in for a shift, one, when you train them on what they're going to be doing, two, when you have certain protocols that they have to perform in accordance, like in order to work for you guys, that's three. Those types of things are not the treatment that is given to an actual independent contractor. And so when whatever determining agency is determining, like whatever government agency, when they look into whether you're a MIC classifying a 1099 employee versus W-2 employee, they look at all the factors. And if you have too many factors that are basically saying you're treating this worker like a regular salaried or W-2 employee, and you're not, currently having them set up as a W-2, meaning you're not paying payroll, taxes, and that type of stuff. If you're not doing that, you'll get slapped with a giant fine, a fine that you never, ever, ever want to deal with. I've never dealt with it, thankfully, and I think some of the cleaning business owners know this too. You really want to stay away from those types of fines. Okay. Hey, Brandy. Any other questions at all? I hope that answered your question, Denise. Okay, so one of the other things that I would ask, and sometimes I feel like I'm clear on certain things, and you never know what comes across as clear and what doesn't. So what I will say is that the course is lifetime access. Okay, so once you sign up for it, for the rest of my life as well as your life, and even beyond the life of the current platform is sitting on, right? Like I am considering eventually putting all the content on a different platform called Kajabi. And if I do that, your access will transfer over. So this is lifetime access. I'm not going to be doing any other courses. I have no interest in being someone that just pumps out courses. And so, you always have access. And what that also means is that as I update and make this like a version 2.0 or whatever, as this course improves, you will be sort of included, and you get to inherit all of those updates into your current curriculum, into the current content that is on there. I'll upload it to the same place. I'll announce it to current students via email, so it's there. So even if you finish the course, you'll find either maybe videos that were reshot with more relevant information, or maybe with more clarity, or maybe just added videos in general. Now, one thing I'm definitely going to be doing a lot of is I'm going to start adding to the resources section, and eventually I'm going to start adding homework to some of the lessons, so you can sort of make sure that you're implementing things in the right way to get this thing launched properly. Okay, so that was another question. So Jacob with the question, on the agent metrics, you mentioned some call centers call missed calls back as soon as they can. Does Vicky Virtual do this? And if so, did you charge this in the standard call plus handle time? So if we miss the call, our goal was to call that caller back. Okay. Now, some of our clients actually didn't want us to call missed calls back. And the reason for that is because oftentimes the callers that would hang up real fast after 10 seconds or less were solicitors. And so, rather than dealing with it, some of our clients literally were like, we don't want to deal with that. I don't want to spend a lot of my phone usage allotment to be dedicated toward calling solicitors back. And for those clients, usually the people that are actual potential clients or regular clients of theirs, like existing clients, they would just sit on the phone until someone picks up, which wouldn't take that long anyway, but sometimes it was definitely more than 10 seconds. So the answer there is we would call them back. Now the second part is, do we charge them the standard handle time? The answer to that is yes, because what happens is that if we miss the call, the amount of time until the call was missed, that doesn't go toward the bill, right? So if someone is calling in and they're a caller of one of our clients and they, wait 10 seconds before the call's answered, the timer doesn't start until we answer the call. And so the 10 seconds prior will not be billed towards our client. And because that time's not billed towards our client, when we call the person back, we essentially treat it like a brand new call, right? And then when we call them back, the timer doesn't start until we're talking to the caller, if so. So good question, Jacob. Bettina, welcome. Good to have you here. So the nice thing about this live video is that you'll automatically be able to watch a replay of it. Again, in the future, I'm going to be doing a different platform, probably Zoom, and then that'll be on a different link where others can sort of chat. But for now, you'll just have to look at my ugly mug and listen to my only singular voice, but in the future weeks, we'll do it a little bit differently, okay? All right, so let's see. Just a second, I'm gonna look up other questions that were asked here. Okay. Okay, so a different question that came up was how long did it take you to become profitable? And that's a good question. So in our case, it took 2 months. We didn't spend a lot of money. We were very lean. And so through a combination of a decent pre-launch and then some cold calling, content marketing, we were able to get to like 22 clients by the end of February, which was the end of our second month, which in that case covered all of our expenses in terms of the 2 agents that we're working for, the phone system cost, and all the other miscellaneous costs. And then from there, we started to spend again, but our spending was always in line with the growth. So, eventually our SEO started kicking in, and I was looking back over this the other day when I posted the screenshot. In, I think it was July of 2015, so our 7th month in business, the organic reach really started to kick in. And so we got 17 organic signups that month. So we didn't do any additional work for it. They were just signing up. And so 17 organic. So in that month, it was sort of a mad dash to find the next 2 agents. And, you know, we were never really close to not being profitable at any point after that. So we actually started paying ourselves a very small distribution every month, starting in month 7, and then going beyond that until I bought my partner out, and then I would just pay myself whenever I wanted to pay myself until I sold the company. So, okay. So a few other questions. Jacob, did you do pre-launch discounts with Vicky Virtual? This is actually a really good question. And if so, do you recommend them? So I would probably recommend having some type of incentive for people to sign up for a company that hasn't launched yet, right? So if you're doing a pre-launch, you want to have an incentive. That way, your potential clients are a bit more convinced to stick with you rather than signing up for one of your competitors during the pre-launch period. And so what we did for Vicky Virtual was we did a 10%, it was a 10% discount on the monthly rate. And the beautiful thing is that we made it like a lifetime discount. So it wasn't like, oh, for the first 3 months or whatever. It was a 10% discount across the board, even at the plan tier went up and whatever, for the lifetime of their tenure, or, you know, the lifetime that they were a client of ours. So that ended up being sufficient. Another thing that we do pretty often on an ongoing basis is after trial, we generally do a like a one-time sign-up fee of $50, and you can choose what yours would be. I've seen anywhere from $50 all the way up to $100. And so what we'll do as an incentive, sometime, hey, if you sign up today, you start trial today, we'll waive the $50 one-time sign-up fee at the end of trial. And people always seem to appreciate that. Okay, so Denise, I hope that answers your question sufficiently, Jacob. Denise asked, did you hire a VA to cold call, or were you doing the cold calling personally? So in the first few days, I did some cold calls, and I did them myself. And there's a really cool story in the course about the very first cold call I made. Like literally the first dial is an awesome story. So I did the cold calling personally myself. And then I stopped doing cold calling because really I don't like it that much, especially once we started getting organic. So I really only was cold calling for 2 or 3 weeks. So it wasn't that long of a period, right? Now, about a year and a half in, I hired a full-time sales rep to start doing outreach in general. So that meant cold emailing, that meant cold calling, and whatever they could do to sort of bring in their own client for the company, as well as they were handling the inbound calls, the inbound inquiries for our service. Okay? Another question from Denise is, when you're cold calling and they ask for a pricing sheet, do you provide that over email or direct them to the site to pick a plan? So, and that's a good question. What we typically did was, like if I'm cold calling someone for the first time and they're like, oh, so you know, what's your pricing? The first thing I do is I ask them, I try to figure out with whatever wording, what is their current usage? What is their current call volume? So, you know, some people know exactly how many minutes they're using because they check their phone bill every month. Most don't. So an easier way to put that is around how many calls do you receive on maybe a daily or weekly basis that you could ballpark it for them. And so once you get that answer, say someone says, oh, I get like 10 calls a week. Depending on the type of company it is, you'll start to get a sense of, you know, how long the typical call is. So let's say it's like a cleaning company and they get 10 calls a week. Well, the typical call handle time and all that's about 2.5 to 3 minutes. And it can be higher if most of their calls are like booking calls. Like if you're booking a client for them, it takes longer than simply answering the call and like taking a message. So my rule of thumb was roughly around 3 minutes for local service businesses. So if I'm talking to a local service business owner and they say, well, we get about 10 calls a week, I know that's about 40 calls a month. And generally, I'll try to do it in my head, 22 business days. So that's 40. If you're doing it based off of that, that's 44 calls a month. Now, if someone's getting 44 calls a month and it's at 3 minutes, that's roughly 132 minutes, right? So at 132 minutes, what is their price going to be? Now, if you want to do that sort of quickly, you can basically say 40 calls times like 2.5 to about 100 minutes. So you're going to fall somewhere between our starter plan and our intermediate plan, our entrepreneur plan. So what that means is that they're going to end up paying somewhere between $99 and $200 a month. Okay, so once you know that, you can sort of say that, and then we'll say, okay, let me grab your email if they're not ready to sign up right then and there, and then you send them a follow-up email with the entire pricing schedule, and then again, like reaffirming or sort of restating where you're pretty sure they will land so that they have some context as to what their price is going to be, not just what the price all across the spectrum. Okay. So the final sort of thing there, Denise, is we didn't have like a pricing sheet via PDF or anything that we sent over. It was available on our website, and I just sort of, type it up in an email to them. It didn't really take that long because it's really just the 3 tiers, and we didn't do all kinds of like extra stuff in terms of a la carte prices. So it's very easy to just type in those 3 things. So hopefully that answers your question sufficiently. Hey, Aaron, good to have you on board. Good to have you on the call. Let's see, what else? Any other questions at all? Now, because this is the first week, this is going to be, overall a shorter call. And, in the future, at the group sort of grows. Awesome, Denise. At the group sort of grows and we have more students in the class, then, obviously, inevitably, we'll have more questions, and I'll probably keep these things between an hour to about an hour and 15 minutes. I never want it to be too long because we are doing this every week. And, I want you guys to have time with your families and all that. So I'm going to wrap up for today. But what I do want to convey to you all is that just a final reminder, on Saturday, the price of this course is going to go back up. It's going to go up for the first time in forever to $997. Now, the $997 is eventually going to go up again, and the $997 will be the new sort of like base price. So the $697 that it is right now will never happen again, even when we're doing a sale, doing some type of like, launch period or whatever. It's never going to be $697 again. So keep that in mind. I don't want to beat the dead horse too much about that, but a fair reminder. Okay, so Jacob had another question. Where did you see success with finding qualified receptionists? So the thing is, we actually did something, and this is in the course, Jacob. Actually, you know what? This is not in the course yet. And it's one of the videos that I plan on uploading. So I promised I'll have that video uploaded this weekend. But there is a way in which to this day, we've actually never posted a regular job ad. And we actually got about 60,000 applicants in the first year and a half. So we've always had an absolute abundance of, just constant influx of applicants, to where, again, we've never had to post one job ad ever. And because of that, we had our pick of the litter. And so, Jacob, I promise I'll have that uploaded this weekend. There's a cool trick we did that has a lot of SEO benefits as well. And it's one of the reasons that we ranked organically. And you'll see that. But I'm leaving that to the students. So now, if we were to post an ad, we would have done like Indeed, and we would have looked into work from home job boards. Those are the sources that we would have looked. In terms of the type of people we look for, make sure you go to the module, on receptionists. There's module 3 is focused specifically on receptionists. Okay. So I hope that answers your question, Jacob. Okay. So yeah, are there any other questions in the last few minutes here? I don't see anything at the moment. So I hope this was helpful for you guys. We're all sort of going through this together. We're all working our way through the process together. And so, this is my first course, so I'm sort of working through a little bit as I go along myself. And so what I desire and my goal is to be a resource that creates sort of a community of people that are launching successful call center. And as we do that, the community as a whole will be stronger and more educated, so that at the new breed or new wave of people come in, we can be, as a community, very helpful to all of those people. So hopefully the Q&A calls help. Eventually, I'm going to be setting up a private Facebook group separate from this one that we'll do calls on, just for people that have enrolled in the program. But for now, we're going to do it for everyone, especially during the beta period here. And I really appreciate you guys being on for the first call. Now, since it's a Facebook Live video, it'll automatically sort of save and it'll be posted, so you don't have to worry about waiting for the replay. And other than that, I really appreciate you guys, and hope you have a good weekend coming up. And if you haven't picked this thing up, pick it up before February 1st. Have a good rest of the night.